Hello, my name is Decimus Claudius, and I'm very pleased to be able to speak today with Publius Aurelius Barbatus on Nova Roma's Twitch account. Thank you so much for letting me speak to you today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Definitely. So my first question to you is how you got into ancient Roman history.
Sure. So for a lot of my elective courses in undergrad, I took some classical classes, ancient Greek Civ, ancient Roman Civ, and I really quite enjoyed them. My girlfriend at the time was a classics major, and my interest really kind of hovered there for a while. I didn't do anything other than watch, a historical documentary here or there. But when I became a pagan, I first ventured into Anglo-Saxon paganism, and through that I found out that the Saxons had a gloss for Hercules, and that really interested me. So I started doing more research on how the various German tribes knew of Hercules, and I was really drawn to that. And so I got interested in, okay, so how was Hercules worshipped in Rome then? Because he came to, the Germans through Rome, and I found Nova Roma through there, and I said, "Oh, I bet I can learn a lot there, so I'll join." And it just blew me away how incredible it was, and how everyone was very welcoming. So I joined, and I became interested in Roman religion, and started practicing it, and here I am.
Great. I did actually forget one thing. Normally in the introductions, I include titles. Now,
Sure.
I know several of your titles. One of them was Quaestor, I believe, for last year, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you are also the first person, if I recall correctly, to have completed the Camillus course.
Yes, that's correct.
Are there any other titles that I'm missing, or are those the two?
Sure. So for the last for the last election cycle, I was quaestor, but I was recently elected tribune of plebs. So that's my current political office. I'm also the governor of the province America Mississippiana. And yes, when I graduated from the Camillus program, I became a sacerdos. That's a priest. So I'm sacerdos Hercules, priest of Hercules.
And I also see on the Nova Roma website, it's listed. You're also listed as a deribitor. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'm not sure what it is exactly.
Yes. So I've served in that role a few times. It's basically helping count votes in the election. So along with some other citizens in the role, we have access to the votes, and we, as a team, tabulate them and check each other's work to make sure everything is counted correctly.
Nice. So let's get into the Camilli program, since you are the first graduate, and I believe that was only a few months ago. So can you just walk us through how How the setup is, with the training and the classes and everything, and what you did to become a sacerdote.
Sure. So I first became interested in the role and applied to the Camillus program. I sent an email to the uh, uh, the Collegium Pontificum and applied, saying that I was interested in being a sacerdote uh, of Hercules. You don't have to know when you apply what deity you wish to serve, but I knew right away. So I applied, and they asked me some questions. What my religious background was, as far as Roman religion goes, what books on Roman religion I've read, and you sort of have to understand your office. You have to acknowledge that this is a lifetime appointment, so it's not something that you can just do and then put down. You're serving in this role forever, essentially. So they want to make sure that you understand all of that before you start the program. Once you start, you have reading assignments. It's academic literature on Roman religion, understanding the history and the religious concepts and all the like core info that you need to know about the religion in general before you start focusing on just the cult of the deity that you're going to serve. So when we had our reading assignments, we would then have regular video chats with the students, and Hortensia Faustina. She was primarily administering the program, so she was mentoring all of us and leading the discussion and helping us understand all of the core concepts. And each week we would have a reading and then discuss. And as the program progressed, we started learning things like, okay, now we understand the core concepts. Now let's look at the ritual format. Let's learn some ritual Latin. Let's begin using a formula to write the actual rituals themselves. And then after about a year of that program, with the help of Hortensia Faustina and Cornelius Lentulus, I took my exam, which involved 3 parts. It was one, to write a ritual for a specified occasion in Latin, and I had a template for that, so I just had to know how to construct it correctly, how to use the correct Latin. Part 2 was to record myself performing the ritual. So I had a few citizens from the province join me, and I performed the ritual, and one of them recorded that. And so then I submitted the video of the ritual. And step 3 was a written exam showing that I understood both the important concepts of Roman religion, as well as understood all the important elements of the cult of Hercules specifically. Because when you graduate, you are considered the authority on that deity. So I had to learn a lot about Hercules and how he was worshipped in Rome. So it is a very comprehensive, very thorough program.
Nice. You mentioned the Latin part. How can you speak Latin, read some Latin, or have you studied it a
Um,
bit?
So I've studied it a little, self-study. I've never taken like a university Latin course. I didn't take it in high school or anything like that. Um, but um, again, Hortensia Faustina and Cornelius Lentulus were very good at helping coach me. I took some self-study Latin courses, just very rudimentary to understand the basics. And then Cornelius Lentulus uh, coached me with how to construct a Roman ritual. And then I've had several people help coach me on pronunciation. So I can't particularly speak Latin. I can read it from a ritual. Um, my pronunciation isn't perfect, but it's improving. So you don't have to be fluent in Latin to be a Camillus or a Sacerdos, but you have to learn some. But
Definitely.
yeah, it's been quite fun actually.
Now, regarding Hortensia Faustina, a good friend of mine, she actually wrote. So she was really excited to be part of the live stream today in the chat comments. But she actually wrote to me just a bit ago that she's so sorry to miss the stream. She's going to a Greek labrys ritual now with Livia, and she asked me to, please tell Barbatus, why she's absent, but also give him a warm salve from her. And
Well, she's been
yeah.
very good to me, very supportive, and she's helped me. She's been very patient with my learning, and I definitely could not have completed the program without her help and support all along the way.
Now, I know that there are some differences between, for instance, a deity in the Roman pantheon and the Greek equivalent. But I'm wondering for Hercules, are there much differences between the Greek and the Roman version, or is it more or less the same because they do actually use the same?
Um, sure. So when talking about Roman religion, the one of the concepts that you need to understand is Roman religion is about how you approach the gods and how you worship them. So you could take, a Greek deity, as was often the case in Rome, or later Egyptian deities, and it's more a matter of how you sacrifice to them that makes it truly a Roman adaptation. So, in terms of how they viewed Hercules, Romans were a lot more concerned with myth of place. So, um, they would they would say, "Oh, this is the place in Rome where Hercules, fought this uh, monster," or something along those lines. But they viewed him very very similarly to how he was viewed in Greece, a deity of strength. He traveled all over. He was seen as a protector of land travel, a protector of um, you know young children, especially if you had a boy that you wanted to grow up healthy and strong, you might sacrifice to Hercules and ask that. Um, uh, he had several different aspects, like the olive traders guild had a temple constructed to him, and he was seen as a patron of business, especially the olive trade, which is kind of an interesting aspect of him that you don't super see in Greek. It's just how the Romans understood him. It was very much seen as this is the same deity. This is just how we understand and experience him.
And through my travels, I've seen so many depictions of Hercules, on statues or mosaics, or even terracotta figurines. Is there a certain depiction of Hercules, ancient depiction, that I don't know, really speaks to you, or that you think is for you the most significant of his depictions?
Sure. Certainly, him fighting the Nemean lion, or wearing the lion pelt, is a very common depiction that you often see, and you often see him with his club. So it was often those depictions that showed him as a deity that was a protector, someone who they would turn to when they needed protection, or you know, he was just a deity who could get things done.
Were you Have you had the good fortune of being able to go to Naples and see the huge, I think it's called Farnese Hercules in person?
N- No, but it's definitely on my list. I'm planning such a trip for 2 or 3 years after my wife and I both finish grad school.
Okay. So have you been to Europe yet? Or
No, I've
would it be your first time?
yes, it would be my first time. Um,
Oh my
I've
goodness.
I've lived abroad and traveled in Asia, but I've never been to Europe.
Wow. I mean, there are so many wonderful places to go. When I hear people, saying that they're going to go to Europe, especially in the US, if you don't have much vacation time, because, sometimes you only have 2, 3 weeks off a year. And then it's like, okay, what can I see in a week? And there's just so much. So that's going to be hard to say, okay, like what are you going to include and what are you going to have to leave out? But do you have like a route in mind, or like a few places that are must sees on your first trip?
Sure. So, my wife is a fan of cruises, and so she has said we've got to do a cruise that hits all the highlights of Italy. We have to see all the important Roman sites. So that would certainly be the first. You know, there's so many Roman sites all over Europe because the empire was so huge, but the the major sites in Italy would certainly be the first on our list.
Yeah, absolutely. Regarding cruises, I mean, some people do cruises through Greece because there's so many islands in Greece, and that's the main way to go to some of those islands. I haven't really done that sort of trips, but I mean, it would be fun. I mean, to be on a huge boat.
Of course.
Yeah. And so, one thing is that with Hercules, I mean, so he's also I don't know if he's the god of strength or he's just depicted as being strong, but so when you work out, or when somebody works out that would be a priest of Hercules, is there like a little ritual, or do you keep him in mind, or what kind of thing happens like when you just go to the gym and work out?
Yeah, certainly. So, I have a gym in my garage, um, and I have a small figurine of Hercules in my gym. And whenever I work out, I like to do and the adoratio. That's a gesture of respect, like that. And I will often offer a small prayer and sacrifice either before and or after my workout. It's just a way of bringing another aspect of religiosity into something I do, especially since Hercules is depicted as being a god of strength. As his priest, it's a very good way for me to bring an aspect of religiosity into something that would otherwise just be a hobby for me.
And I remember last year there was, because obviously in Nova Roma there are so different fests. I believe you actually organized it. It was the Feat of Strength.
Yes.
And I thought that was a really good idea because, various Nova Romans in different countries recorded themselves. I think normally like in the gym, lifting weight was the most common one. I mean, I really wouldn't have thought of that. So like, how did that pop in your mind?
Well, so it was during the plebeian games, and Hercules was one of the most popular deities among the plebeian class. He was wildly popular in Rome, and I thought to myself, what would be a way that we could have a game in his honor? Obviously, we can't have athletic contests in person since we're so spread out. We can't do wrestling or whatever. So I had to think, how can we show a feat of athleticism when we're so spread out? And I thought, why not just record yourself doing, to whatever your interest and ability. Um, the the best thing that you can think of that shows strength and determination and those attributes. And I thought, let's just record yourself doing whatever you can do wherever you are, because you don't have to be um, you know a a strongman, a competitor. Although the we did see an entry from a strongman competitor that was really impressive. Um, you don't have to be ripped to show a fit of strength that is something that is difficult for you. That would be in honor of Hercules. You can do whatever is a feat of strength for you, and I just thought that'd be a great idea.
I thought it was a genius idea, to be honest with you. The only thing though is I didn't participate just because I mean like I'm not a big weightlifter, and I didn't think that going on those like what is it called, the cross trainers or the CrossFit trainers? I don't know what
Oh
it's
yeah, CrossFit.
called. Yeah, CrossFits. Like me recording that is I don't know, it's not really appealing on camera, and like lifting 10 kilo each barbells on each hand. I thought that that I'm gonna have to sit that one out, but
Yeah, no,
yeah.
it was designed to where if your strength is running, your entry could be a picture of you running, even if it's a selfie, and then a screenshot of your like route, or a screenshot of your like heart rate tracker if you have a smartwatch or something showing like the duration of the workout, the calories burned. However you want to show your athleticism. So I think in the future, I would encourage you to whatever whatever your strength is, play to your strength and get creative with however you want to enter. We had one citizen who said, like, I'm not in good physical health, and his entry was just pictures of him starting workout, just doing some simple body weight squats, walking, just very beginner exercises, and that was his entry. And I also thought that was great.
Definitely. Staying on the subject of Hercules, I remember Hortensia Faustina mentioned that every time she did a big trip, she, I don't know if she asked you personally, but asked for a sacrifice to Hercules. And I remember that she wrote that he's the patron deity of land travel. How does that fit in? Because I didn't know that before.
Yes. So Hercules, in all of Hercules' mythology, he travels all over Europe. We have stories of him, doing his 12 labors and feats all over. He prolifically traveled, and not only that, but stories of him traveled. From Greece all the way to, like I said, the Saxons knew him as Ercole. Um, the Carthaginians knew him as Melquat. He just not only in his stories did he travel all over, but tales of his strength and his feats also traveled all over. So it was very much seen as, if you were going to make some land travel and you wanted to ask him for protection, then you could go ask his priest to make a sacrifice for your safe travels.
Is there some overlap with Mercury?
I'm sorry?
Is there some overlap with Mercury? Because I thought Mercury, like, okay, he's a deity of messengers, but I also thought that there was like a travel aspect to him as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm not 100%
definitely. Definitely. So, you often see the areas of domain for deities overlapping in some areas. You can't always say this deity is a deity of X, because whatever that aspect is, um, you see overlap like that in several places. So if you're traveling, either deity would be appropriate. Certainly, when I moved back to the States, I had this big 14-hour plane ride, and I had to go through customs. I had to do several layovers, and certainly I made sacrifices to both Hercules and Mercury. Definitely, Mercury was also a deity to sacrifice to for protection of your stuff while you're traveling.
very important, especially on
Yes.
American Airlines.
Right. So like, I'm just going to cover all my bases here. There's no reason why I can't sacrifice to both, since that's both of their areas.
Now, I know that you lived in Japan before, and maybe it's a slight detour in the conversation, but I actually am a huge fan of Japan. I've actually been there a few times, and I'm planning another trip later this year. So, if you don't mind, so what brought you over to Japan, and where in Japan were you?
Sure. So my wife has wanted to try living in Japan ever since she was a young child, and when we started to get serious, she said, "Hey, just so you know, I plan on trying to live in Japan. So if that's not something that you're interested in, like let's stop before we get too serious." And I said, "No, that sounds awesome." So when she graduated from undergrad, we applied for jobs in Japan, and we lived there for 5 years as English teachers, and we lived in the south part of the country, way out in the country, in a farming town with a population of around 10,000. Really small town.
So was that Kyushu or
Kyushu.
Okinawa?
Yeah.
Oh, Kyushu. Okay.
Yep.
I've actually been there several times, and one thing about Kyushu is they have some nice onsen. But I mean, like everywhere in Japan, they have some nice onsen. But I remember that. So interesting, 5 years, because I know a lot of people that have gone to Japan and teach English for a year, but normally they do it once they graduate high school, kind of as a gap year, and they go for 6 months or a year. So 5 years is quite a bit of time. I mean, were you able to just go from one end of Japan and the other and see everything, or were you busy so much that you didn't have too much time to venture out?
So yeah, we did do plenty of travel. We traveled certainly all around Kyushu. I've been to every prefecture in Kyushu, and I saw the highlights of other parts of Japan, as well as I traveled to some other countries in Asia while I lived there, and the flight was quite short to visit some of them. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I got to have a lot of interesting experiences, especially going as a tourist. If you don't speak any Japanese, you can get by just fine. But living there and learning to speak Japanese, once you can speak at least some Japanese, it opens up a lot of opportunities for travel that most people don't get to otherwise experience. So yeah, there was a reason that we stayed for 5 years, because it was incredible.
Now, so the last time I went to Japan, I also went to a place, I don't know if you heard of it, called Kurukawa Onsen.
Yes.
And it was amazing. And I remember on one day I went to 10 different onsen basins, because sometimes in a resort you'll have 3 or 4, and then you could do resort hopping. When I actually went there, it's kind of weird, but I had a little feeling that this is also somewhat Roman, because the Romans love to bathe in hot water. And I mean, in some other countries like in Europe or the US, if you go to a spa or this or that, you'll get some warm water. But I don't remember ever outside of Japan getting almost burning hot water.
Yes.
And I mean, obviously, I don't think the Romans had lukewarm water. I think that, they definitely had hot water through the furnace underneath that, heated up from the bottom. So, I mean, I would say that was one parallel thing that, you could kind of sit back and enjoy, not just being in Japan, but also thinking kind of the Romans had this, sometimes in their own room, in their own house. And okay, the decoration is different, but I mean, in essence, it's the same enjoyment.
Definitely. And I will say that Kurokawa Onsen was about 1 hour's drive away from where I lived in Japan. It's very close.
Nice. And I went to this old ryokan, very historic ryokan, and it's the most expensive hotel night I've ever booked, because if you want to do the and I think they had, I don't remember exactly how many they had, but 6 or 7 different like onsen basins, or like also men and women and some private ones. So an amazing experience. I mean, but sometimes the water could get so hot that you just have to say nope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's certainly one parallel. I've I wouldn't say that I necessarily watch anime, but I know that there's an anime where the premise is a guy from ancient Rome somehow gets transported to modern Japan and gets an idea for a bathhouse from seeing the Japanese bathhouse, and then it's transported back to ancient Rome and uses those ideas to build a Roman bathhouse. So
I actually remember that on Facebook. I'm not sure if you posted it or somebody else posted it like a year or two ago, something like that. I thought it was a pretty interesting idea. Um, there are maybe a few more parallels between Japan and Rome. Maybe I'm stretching, but one of them is the whole like Shinto religion. I've seen many times you've written about it, animist religion. Can you briefly go into the similarities between the Shinto religion and the Roman religion, and also the differences in terms of beliefs and practices?
Sure. So yeah, there's a lot of overlap there. In fact, I would say that my experiences with Shintoism um, really helped me understand the Roman conception of divinity as well. So both religions are uh, animist in that they believe that every tree, rock, animal, person, everything has a divine aspect to it. The Romans definitely believe that. If you look at the earlier Roman religion, that was a lot more pronounced, but certainly it was an idea that carried through the Republic and the Empire. Um, and the idea of you know both both are animist, both are polytheist um, religions. So how I saw a modern, educated, depending on where you are in the country, urban society that was animist and polytheist definitely spoke to um, how that religion can work in a range of different societies. Um, another interesting aspect is they're both um, uh, they're both orthopraxic religions, not orthodoxic religions. So orthodoxic means correct belief. Um, so religions like Christianity tend to be orthodoxic. You have to have the correct belief to be in this religion. Whereas Shinto and Roman religion are a lot more orthodoxic. It's how you perform them that's important. I knew several friends in Japan that when I got to talking to them, they were essentially atheist, but they would still go to Shinto shrines on the important festivals and pray and make sacrifices, and they would say like, this is an important aspect of our culture. It's important to perform these religious rites, even if I don't believe in them religiously. And certainly you can practice Roman religion that same way. It's all about how you perform it, not what you believe.
And I remember being in some Shinto shrines, and I read, well, assuming that they have some information. For instance, in these little constructed buildings, for instance, the kami of some deity would be enshrined there. So what does that actually mean? The kami is enshrined in this little building.
So yeah, they would believe that that not not 100% of the time, but the deity itself can reside there. That's a possible place where the deity can like physically inhabit the space. Um, it's a lot more esoteric than that, but that's really the simplest way to describe what they mean by enshrined. Like when they say the deity is enshrined here, essentially what they're saying is if you want to pray to this deity, this is a place to go to where it's guaranteed that they're at least going to hear your prayers. Like this is the place to go to pray to them and to make offerings to them. And in Shinto, generally speaking, the offerings that regular people make are money, and then the priests then use that to upkeep the temple site and to buy the actual things that they sacrifice in their job as priests: vegetables, rice, sake, that sort of thing.
I remember in Kyoto, I went to a very large shrine called Ishimi-inari.
Yes.
If I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yep.
And there's a Shinto priest, or sorry, Fushimi-inari, yeah. And there was a Shinto priest blessing a car. So all the car doors and the back door and the hood, everything was open. And I'm not sure if he was putting some droplets of water or what, but he definitely had a wand and he was going through. Is there any equivalent in Roman history of that, of like blessing a ship or blessing a wagon? Or because I haven't heard of such a thing, but I'm guessing that perhaps there was a possibility.
Yeah, perhaps that wouldn't be my that would not be my area of expertise, but certainly I would think so. In some of the rituals that I've read that involve investing someone in a religious office, the priest in question puts their hand on that person as part of the like investiture. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was such a ritual practice in Roman religion. I've not personally come across it, but that's not my area of expertise and research within Roman religion, because Roman religion is so huge. It's very difficult for one person to know it all.
Definitely. I just want to get into the comments because this is a live stream, and I really appreciate all the comments that were written. Not everybody uses their Roman name. So some of these people, I don't know who they actually are. For instance, Beofeld wrote, and I'm not sure who that is, "I was there, it was great." Another person, the name ITMO, wrote, "There is also the other side of the Adriatic." Very true. I mean,
True.
I've been to Croatia and also so Bosnia and Herzegovina and Montenegro, and there are definitely some nice Roman sites, but obviously the highest concentration really of high quality Roman sites are in sections of Italy. So,
Sure.
But I mean, very fair point. Now, another person in the comments wrote, his name is screen name is Mantis502. He wrote, "Did you know Macrobius wrote about the unity of Hercules and Mars?"
Right. Yeah. I've definitely come across that. And Macrobius, that's more within the realms of philosophy than strictly religion. So when it comes to the way I practice Roman religion, I try and treat it as the Romans would have. Religion is religion, philosophy is philosophy. Their ideas oftentimes touch each other and overlap. But when you're talking about the practice of religion, we try not to bring philosophy into the religious expression. Certainly, you can have conversations all day long about their interplay, but as far as my duties as a priest go, that's not something that particularly factors into what I do in the way I serve Hercules on behalf of the Roman people, for sure. But yes, I have read that.
He also wrote, "Personally, I never attribute a deity as god or goddess of X, but god or goddess who presides over X."
That's definitely a better way to think about it.
So
Definitely.
thank you for all the comments. Please keep them coming. We still have about another half hour, so if you want to, have some questions or comments, I would love to see them. Now, I was actually just thinking that there is a huge sort of temple in Nashville. Now,
Yes.
I believe it was built for what, a World's Fair or something similar to a World's Fair.
Yes.
Have you been there?
Yes. It's absolutely incredible. It now functions as a museum and an art gallery, but the exterior is incredible. The interior is incredible. There's a giant replica statue of Minerva, Athena, that's just awe-inspiring, and you can rent out that space for private events. So it's definitely a dream to have a meet up there and rent out that space, but we need more citizens that are able to travel there, or more citizens in the province, before we can put together something that grand. But it is an incredible space.
Now, I've seen actually some pictures of weddings there. Now, I don't think that would be typical. I don't think Romans would get married inside the structure of a temple. But it's a really cool place,
Yeah.
I've seen images of the cult statue in Athens in the National Museum. There are several depictions, not that much, maybe about this high or so. And I actually have a copy of one, which I purchased, and I have it in my bedroom. Very nice. There's only a few ones in such details as the large one that was on the Acropolis, and I believe they're only the Roman. So I don't think we have a direct original Greek image of that in terms of sculpture. So, but I mean, yeah, very great. I believe in Nashville they have gold leaf on there as well to really enhance it.
Yes, it is. It is as I would imagine it was. In ancient Greece, the fact that it's so big and grand, and the gold leaf just adds to how awe-inspiring it is. I can certainly see how it would have such a profound effect on anyone visiting that space in ancient Greece, for sure.
Now, from what I've read about temples, and also I've been in ruins of temples, normally it's a pretty dark space. Not always, but often it's kind of dark. You'd only have light coming in from the door and no windows. And sometimes it would just be a statue, but other times you'll have, offerings of, people, and they would leave it with the temple. So, what else is there inside? Like, is it dark, or because they also deal with mass tourism? So, I mean, I don't think that it's going to be 100% like a temple, but also more of
Sure.
just an attraction. Maybe like also with a coffee shop and a bookshop and this and that. So,
Yeah,
so what else is there on the property?
So they've got on the exterior a very nice like outdoor park space, and then on the inside, in addition to the for lack of a better word, this sanctuary area with the statue, there's a lot of art that you can see. It functions primarily as like an art museum.
So there's like one big room that would be like the sanctuary, and they would have some rooms off to the side of like an art display
Yeah,
or something like that.
it's very much just like an art gallery, like a museum, art museum. If you've ever been to an art museum, you know the different gallery spaces. It's very similar to that.
And if I remember correctly, they also have coffered ceilings.
I believe so. Yeah.
Nice. So I've been to a bunch of places in the U.S. and I've even been to Tennessee, but unfortunately, I haven't been to a Nashville. So
It's within the last 10 years, tourism there has exploded. It's one of the top 10 like growing cities within the last decade. So next time you're in the area, definitely check it out.
sure. Yeah, I mean, the only time I was in Nashville when I was living in North Carolina, I went to the Great Smoky Mountains. So I mean, it was just like one of those touristy towns. I forgot the name, but they have like a Ripley's Believe It or Not, and like all these like touristy neon lights and that sort
Yeah.
of stuff.
Gatlinburg. Yep.
Yeah. You've been there?
Oh, many, many times.
And it's one of the most touristy towns in America, in my opinion. Would you
Yes,
agree?
it is. It's the honeymoon capital of America, because it's very accessible and very affordable to working class folks. So a lot of people do their honeymoon there. A cabin in the Smokies.
Nice. Yeah, that would be nice to do like a Nova Roma event in that temple in Nashville.
Yeah, I
Um,
would love to.
I'm very fortunate that to be able to partake 2 weeks ago in a Nova Roma event here in Germany. We didn't go to like a ruin or anything, but we did go to a nice museum, so that was also nice. I know that though in the U.S., I mean, things are much bigger than, let's say, in Germany. So, how many times have you met in person with other Nova Romans?
Uh, Thus far, once. This past fall, I planned a meetup, and we had maybe 3 or 4 citizens together at one time, which is more than our province has had in several years, I believe. So it's a start. We're building up. You mentioned in the comments, Bayefeld said, I was there. It was great. He was referring to my sacrifice that I performed as part of my final exam. He was there for that sacrifice. He lives about 3 hours away from me.
And so, was it done on like in a park, or what was the setting?
So I rented a pavilion in a public park, and we uh, got together and had a potluck and chatted for hours. We did 2 different rituals. Beafeld is a priest for an Anglo-Saxon polytheist group. So we did a Roman ritual, and then later we also did an Anglo-Saxon ritual, and it was a good time. It was good to meet up with some fellow citizens. Finally, we're so spread out in America.
Yeah, I mean, actually, in the last 18 and a half years, I've only met up with Nova Romans on 3 occasions, which is quite unfortunate, but I'm really trying. And one way to meet up with people is just to invite people, and ask them, hey, do you have time to meet up? In a little bit over a year ago, I was in Budapest, and I asked Lentulus, if he has some time, and we had a very nice lunch together. And also a couple weeks ago, I was in Hanover, and I noticed that Perkininus is not too far away. So yeah, sometimes it's difficult to meet up, but it's really fun. I mean, when I tell people, I don't know if you have the same experience. Whenever I tell people, I'm passionate about Roman history, people are like, oh, that's weird, or like, okay, good for you, or you know what I'm saying? But like, it's really good to have people really share this passion with me, and just talk with them. Like, we talked about stuff, ancient Rome, tons of other stuff, but it's a really nice atmosphere.
For sure, it is difficult, because when you tell a lot of people that you're into ancient Roman history, they'll say, "Oh, that's nice." Anyway, so yeah, it can be difficult, but it is really great when you get to meet up with someone who shares your passion.
Definitely. In the U.S., though, there are some museums that have Roman collections. Have you
Yes.
been to them, like the Met in New York, or?
I have seen a few pieces. Let's see. It was maybe 15 or 16 years ago. There was a collection visiting when I was at the big art museum in Chicago. I think it's the Art Institute of Chicago. They had a bit of a collection that was visiting there, including some statues that were incredible to see.
Yeah, so I've actually, it's pretty intense, but I was actually in Chicago flying. Actually, I don't remember where I was flying to, but I had like a 12-hour layover. So I went to Chicago. There's actually 3 museums there with Roman items. There's the Art Institute. There is one other one, which I forget the name of, and then there's the Oriental Institute. But the Oriental Institute has a lot of Egyptian things, but Egyptian Roman things.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, one thing about the U.S. is there are actually a bunch of different places with very nice museums. And I mean, I've seen also, for instance, statues of Hercules in different museums. And I'm not sure how many high quality there are. I would say about 15 to 20. So I definitely, whenever, I go to a new place in the US, I definitely, check it out. And now I'm like, okay, the next time I'm going to be in the US, maybe I'll go to Portland, Oregon, because there's a museum there with some Roman stuff.
Right.
Why not? But I find it kind of random, like, Detroit or Cleveland, like, not cities that you would really associate with high quality ancient Roman art. Same thing with San Antonio, Texas. I was blown away with their collection. Yeah. So I'm wondering about your tunic. I've also seen your toga. Did you make those yourselves, or did you import them?
No. So I bought this from ARCs, the folks at Templum in Ukraine. I ordered it there. This is my equestrian tunica. I did have on my toga when we did our sound check, but I took it off because I locked myself out of my office and I had to run to the security desk, and I, I I locked my clothes, my regular clothes in my office. So going to the security desk in a Roman tunic was fun, but they they know me and just thought, oh, he's just doing something weird on his time off. That's just how he is. So it's fine. But yeah, I ordered both my tunica and my toga from Arcs in Ukraine.
So I did as well, and I've had several conversations with Titus, and
Yes.
yeah, very happy with that. The only thing though is that I actually normally just wear like a polo shirt because I always thought that the optics of two people wearing a toga is a little bit weird. So that's why I always wear just normal clothes, unless somebody specifically asks me to wear a tunic. Then I would, but I like kind of the contrast.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah. Do you also have like Roman shoes? Because some people do, some people don't.
So I currently don't. I'm on the look out for a pair that I like. I've been in contact with uh, a I, I suppose you'd say a cobbler in Italy that makes Roman replicas, and we've talked back and forth. But I'm specifically looking for a pair that would befit my equestrian status. So a nice red pair of shoes.
Definitely. I mean, I've been to some Roman festivals in Germany, and I've seen some shoes for sale. The only thing though is, just for me, just taking a look and touching them, they don't feel that comfortable. I really like, for instance, wearing tennis shoes with a lot of support, and the Roman, at least the Roman, sandals and boots that they had for sale was just no support whatsoever. Which, okay, I mean, maybe you could put an insole in.
Yeah, just
That's why
buy
I
them a
haven't
size
I
up
haven't
and an
bought them
insole.
yet either.
Yeah, size up and put an insole, and it'll be fine. No, yeah, I would imagine that they're, by our modern standards, not the most comfortable thing, but with any pair of leather shoes, the more you wear them, usually the more comfortable they become. One one interesting thing that I've read about Roman footwear in general is whereas uh, most clothing was fairly gendered, footwear seems to have been mostly unisex, which is kind of interesting.
I don't know that because, well, obviously there was sandals and
Sure.
that sort of stuff, but I think the Caligulae were definitely just for the soldiers, and
Yeah,
when we say
definitely.
soldiers, it was for the fighting men.
Yeah, boots, accepting obviously, but I think general citizenry footwear. I don't know the accuracy of the statement, but when I was doing research, I encountered several sources that said they were fairly unisex. So
Now,
I could be wrong there.
There is a comment in the chat from OCB84. Not sure who it is. The person wrote, totally unrelated question. Which websites would you recommend for flags, pennants, and such? Etsy. I guess so.
Yeah.
Now, I do know that Praeconinus would actually like to set up a shop offering, Nova Roma branded gear. And we talked about this earlier. And there's a few different things involved in setting up, a merch shop. And one of them would be, if you would place an order in advance and then you would have, stock and you would ship it yourself, or if you would set it up with another company, like for instance, a t-shirt that like you design it and then when somebody buys it, then that specific t-shirt is created and shipped out.
Right.
Obviously, there's issues of quality control and pricing and also revenue for the creator and not just the company making the t-shirt. So there are a bunch of factors that go into that. I haven't really delved into that sort of stuff, but do you have some insight into modern day merch, for instance, for Nova Roma?
Sure.
That,
So I will preface this by saying I'm not a historical reenactor. I don't know the nuances of that, and I know that community can be quite specific on the historical accuracy of what you purchase. But as far as general, if you're not concerned with 100% historical accuracy, I have seen some good items on Etsy. I've definitely looked at a few pairs of shoes on Etsy, but I've had the most success reaching out to citizens who are in the historical reenactment scene and saying, "Hey, I'm interested in, a flag. Um, I, it doesn't have to be perfectly historically accurate. It doesn't have to be made on period cloth with period paint and things like that. What would be the best place?" And they've I've been referred to several small shops that tend to frequent the historical reenactment circuits in Europe. So that's how I found out about the I guess the cobbler that I've been in contact with. So it just depends on what you're looking for, to the degree of accuracy, or if you're just looking for anything, a t-shirt or something like that. But yeah, we are in talks and discussions on opening up an official shop. Definitely.
So when I was in Hanover for a small meetup 2 weeks ago, Proquaestor actually had a banner. It was about this high, and I'm not sure if it was silk, the material, but it was very high quality. Everything was hand painted, and obviously it comes at a price. Now, I'm sure that you could get some sort of a program that prints it off for pretty cheap. So I mean, for the same size, maybe you could get everything like computer printed for like, I don't know, let's say $20 or something. But for obviously, if you take a look at the details, it's much different. Like the handmade quality and like just the hand, it was hand painted, very well done. So I think a lot of reenactors want to go for at least visual authenticity, if not also the fabric being authentic. Because for instance, many times with togas or with tunics, they're not made of wool, which
Sure.
So there are some sacrifices in terms of money and how easy or not it is to create something from the material. But I think that at least appearance should be on point.
Sure. It depends on what your price point is and what compromises you're willing to accept. For instance, my tunic and my toga are not wool, they're linen. And I made that decision because when I would be most likely to wear them would be when I'm performing sacrifices to Hercules officially for the state cult. You don't have to wear a tunica and a toga to do sacrifices, but I like to. It helps. It helps me feel that connection to what I'm doing. But the time of year that historically those sacrifices occur are in the summer, and I live in the southern part of the U.S. So wearing a wool tunic and toga in July, outside in front of a fire is not ideal. So I said, okay, so we're gonna go for a good cut. What I know is going to be a high quality product, but perhaps not the most historically authentic material, because that makes less sense for my situation. So it just depends on what compromises you want to take for what your situation is.
Definitely. I've had my toga and my tunic. I'm not exactly sure how long, but let's say 9 months. I believe I've worn my tunic on 3 occasions, and I've only worn my toga on 1 occasion to a very large Roman festival. And there's only 2 people, I believe 2 or 3 people in a toga, and I was sweating like crazy. And I also had an undershirt to soak up my sweat. But like my tunic was also completely drenched. And I mean, like in Germany, it doesn't get like normally super, super hot, but just walking around, for 4 hours in the sun with that, definitely, it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. The toga is not an easy garment to wear. I don't think that was ever the point of it. It was it, it was a symbol of status of your citizenship. So it was not a garment that was ever intended to be practical. It's wearing a toga at some point in the history of Rome uh, became like wearing a very fine suit in the modern era. It's not a practical garment that you would wear all the time, but just for formal occasions when you need to have your status on display. That's my understanding anyway.
Have you learned how to put the toga on authentically yourself, or have you had to, like, I don't know, show your wife videos on how she could put it on you?
Sure. So historically, anyone putting on a toga would likely have servants or slaves that were particularly skilled at draping a toga on you. The first time I draped my toga, I pulled up a video on YouTube and looked it up, and I put it on, and I was so proud, and I thought, it took me like 10 tries, but I finally got it. And then someone said, I hate to tell you, but the video you used is really bad. That person didn't know what they're doing, and that's a really improper way to drape a toga. And I thought, dang. So I finally got my hands on a good video on how to drape a toga, and it was the person having it put on them. So I just sort of watched and saw what they did, and I've learned to put it on myself. It never looks as good as, say, the pictures I've seen of Cornelius Lentulus with his perfectly wrapped toga. But when you have to do it yourself, you just have to do the best you can and practice until it looks acceptable.
Definitely. Were you also shocked how big it was when it arrived and you opened the package? Because like everybody knows it's large, but I was shocked.
Yeah, Absolutely, and I think that goes back to it being a status symbol. Being able to afford that much cloth in ancient times would show that you could afford to have someone create you a garment using that much cloth. That would have been quite expensive. So I was definitely shocked. It's like, I don't know, 12 feet long or something ridiculous. Um, it's a large garment. It's a large amount of fabric. It's difficult to put on. It's difficult to wear and walk around in. But I suppose that was the point. If you could afford it, and you could afford to have the slaves that would put it on you and look well, and you could afford to not have to do labor and walk around wearing a toga, then that was a symbol of just how important of a person you were.
Absolutely. I just want to remind everybody in the chat that in about 5 minutes or so, we're going to have to wrap up. So please shoot off your comments and questions now, so we could get to everything before wrapping up. So very interesting. Do you have any plans this year for instance, meeting up with other Nova Romans or online things? Or so what is your calendar looking like this year so far in terms of Rome and Nova Roma?
Sure. So I've got my calendar set for when I make my public sacrifices that are required for my office of sacerdotes. And I'd like to say, when I say sacrifice, I don't mean I'm doing a live animal sacrifice. Nova Roma requires all its citizens to follow local laws, and it's illegal in my area to do animal sacrifice, and it's not something that I'd have any sort of training would be willing to do anyway. So when I say sacrifice, I mean I'm sacrificing wine, incense, bread, food, things like that. So yeah, just wanted to clarify to anyone who's listening and thought, wow, is this guy sacrificing a cow in his yard? No, I'm not. So I've got my calendar of public sacrifices to Hercules. Those mostly occur in the summer. There's one that occurs in December. I'm trying to plan at least one more a provincial meetup in the fall, and see if we can get some more citizens to come. But as far as any sort of travel, that is not super doable for me right now, because both my wife and I are in graduate school, and I also work full time, and I have a toddler. So I don't have a lot of time for travel currently, but it is on my list for in the future, visiting more provinces and meeting up with more citizens.
Nice. I don't know if it's disrespectful or not, but have you ever thought about, like, for Halloween, dressing up your toddler as like baby Hercules?
I absolutely bought him. So for kids, there's this type of towel. It's like a bath towel with a hood, and I found one that's a lion. So when he puts it on, it looks like Hercules wearing a lion pelt, and I just thought it was so cute. So yeah, absolutely, that's not disrespectful at all. And in fact, for Halloween, to my office, I wore my tunic and toga to work that day. Yeah.
So you just need like a little club to give your kid, maybe like a little soft one.
yeah, absolutely.
What do people say in the office? Because I've never worn so my tunic or toga around like non-Rome or like, people not interested in Roman history?
No, I got a lot of good comments. A lot of people were impressed. A lot of a lot of people in my office just saw me passing and yelled, "Hail Caesar" or something like that because they had no idea what I was about. But yeah, I in general had very popular or very positive reactions. A lot of people were like, "Wow, that actually looks really impressive."
Nice. So yeah, we have to wrap up in just a couple minutes. OCB thanked us very much for the answer about websites and merchandise and that sort of stuff, and also wrote that they love the stream. Well, I really appreciate it. Stream about once a month or so, although I share the channel with other people. One question that I was just thinking about is your name is Barbatus. Does that mean that the beard has to stay?
It doesn't have to stay, but it will stay. So I have not been clean shaven in over a decade. When I first started talking to my wife, before we were dating, I heard her say to someone else she thought beards were quite attractive. So I grew one to attract her attention, and I just never shaved it. So I've had a beard for over a decade. So when I was choosing my Roman name, that seemed quite appropriate.
I believe Hercules, it's curly.
Yeah, there's a lot of
correctly.
depictions of him showing a curly beard, similar in texture to like statues of Emperor Hadrian, like that sort of curly texture.
Have you thought about like growing it out and then putting some curls in it, or is that just too much?
Maybe. In general, I work in an office, so I try and keep a clean look to it. I work at
I mean, down in the South, there's some bushy beards that people see from time to time.
Definitely. It's definitely the culture here. I work at a university. I don't wear a tie every day, but I wear professional attire, and I try and keep a relatively clean look.
Definitely. Well, there actually are no other comments, but I do thank everybody in the comments section for participating. And the time went by so quickly. It's been an hour and a half, and it's been such a pleasure to talk with you. I mean, we haven't spoken before, so it's our first time. And that's why I really like to do these streams with Nova Roma, because I get to know more about somebody else, and also other people that either watch live or watch the recordings, could put not just a face to a name, but get to know you and know about you much more than just a few lines on Discord or Facebook.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on the stream. I've loved chatting. I'd be happy to come back sometime. If you'd like to chat more in depth about Roman religion, I've done a presentation to Provincia Australia on it. I'd be happy to come back sometime.
And that is actually how I thought about asking you, because you made up. I don't know how many months ago it was, this presentation to Provincia Australia, and I was actually given the link, so I saw a portion of it, and then I thought that, well, he's computer savvy, so if he could stream there, then he could stream on Twitch. So
Sure.
I'm really glad that it worked out. I don't know who I'll try to interview next, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've been doing it for about a year.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
Anyone watching, feel free to at me in the Discord server. I'm happy to chat.
And since we mentioned Hortensia Faustina a lot, I'm going to try to get her back into another chat because it's always very enlightening. I know that there's a new batch of the Camilli students, and I believe that they are meeting up at 5 p.m. or so on Sundays. So obviously the timing is an issue. Do you know how big this batch is? Is it like 3-4 people this time?
Yeah, I'd say it's somewhere between I'd say no more than 5. I know there are at least 3 or 4 that are quite active.
And people go at their own pace, right?
Sure. So there were a few students who are still in the program that started around the same time as me. I just put a lot of effort into getting through it as quickly as I could.
Okay.
So it is very much a progress at your own pace, and when you're ready to take the exam, you can take the exam.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't taken an exam in quite a number of years, and yeah, I don't know. I would be intimidated by any type of exam, but that's just me.
Well,
anyways.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't want to keep you up any longer. I know that you're very busy. Once again, thank you so much for participating, speaking to me, being just agreeing to chat with me today and finding a time. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. I'm happy to return anytime.
Sure. So valete, and hope you and also the viewers at home, whether watching now or later, have a great day.
Valete omnis.
Valete.